Hey everybody, it's Jim McDonald. Hope you're enjoying your holiday, because we definitely are. We'll be back next week, but this week we've got interview, a rerun from one of our favorite people, one of my personal favorite people in the fitness industry, and that's Mr. Stan Rhino Efferding. He's always got good stuff to say, so it's a good chance to take another listen. And as I said last week, if you've got some holiday dollars bouncing around, you might want to throw them at our sponsors, bsnsupplements.com, bodybuilding.com, howmuchyoubench.net, and thepowermagazine.com, as well as the store at supertraining.tv, which is shop.supertraining.tv. All good ways to support this program and keep it rolling. We really appreciate it, and also ratings and reviews on iTunes, because those are always very helpful. So anyway, we will talk to you sort of live next week, and have a happy new year.
Live at Super Training Gym in Sacramento, California, this is Mark Bell's PowerCast, sponsored by thepowermagazine.com, howmuchyoubench.net, and BSN, makers of NO Explode. Look for BSN products at bodybuilding.com. Alongside Silent Mike and Jim McD, here's your host, Mark Bell.
I got that stupid song stuck in my head. Dong, dong, dong.
People always keep asking me what that is.
Yeah, what do they what do they want to go put it on their iPod?
Yes.
Yeah, what is that?
They don't know that after, like, you've heard the whole thing.
Yeah, that's it's not a
It's
song.
3.5 minutes. It's on just like that.
I just assume everything I hear everywhere is not a song. It's just a fucking clip of
Everything
something.
I use is not a song, except for this 10-minute career retrospective I did for Stan, which is all real songs.
I got
which is why it's not going to be on YouTube.
I got my first request for a shout out on the podcast by some Aussie. Shout out to all the Aussies. Someone I know talked to you, Mark, said fucking
Osborne?
No.
Oh shit.
The other Aussies said Australia is just a huge slingshot fan. Everybody loves slingshots down under.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's
of course
awesome.
they do. They're smart over there.
And good looking.
And they're smart enough to realize that kangaroos are stupid. I remember that from being over there.
I've heard that from multiple sources.
They were very angry about the kangaroos. Even though I said I wanted to see them, they were not going to show me. They're like, nope, they're stupid. You won't like them. I was like, okay, thanks.
That's like going to Toronto and not seeing the strippers, though.
Huh?
What?
What?
I've only been to Canada like once or twice, I think. I went to Niagara Falls.
I've never been to Niagara Falls.
I went to Niagara Falls, and you can actually look this up. You can Google it, but the motherfucker was frozen.
Really?
And it's only been frozen like twice in its history. And the one time my dad took me there, my dad's like, once we get over this way, I'll roll down the windows and we'll hear it roaring. I'm like, it's fucking cold out. I don't hear shit. And, of course, it was frozen over.
It's very typical East Coaster thing, yet. It's just a drive to Niagara Falls for a holiday.
Yeah, where I was from,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, even Cleveland. Like, I know my family's always talked about, like, driving over there. We never have, but...
Yeah, I don't remember the bunghole question, unfortunately, that you're talking about.
What was it? It was something. I knew it was going to be interesting.
I did have a good question that popped up. Let's see. I took a fucking screen capture of it because it was kind of amazing. I put up a thing on Twitter, on the Twitters, about doing a power project. And I got smashed with a lot of questions, by the way. So thank you very much. I'll get to those soon. But let me see if I can find this one question. It was really amazing. Let's see here.
You're really building this thing up. It better be good.
Oh, no. It's fucking worth every penny.
It's going to end up being a piece of shit question.
It's amazing radio right here.
Anyway, why don't you talk about Stan Efferding while I'm looking this up?
The Rhino.
Mr.
You guys.
Stan Efferding.
Is the Rhino familiar with African culture?
Why don't you guys maybe talk about what I posted up last night about him? You guys see that shit?
I did, but I was more going to talk about hippopotamus and how hippos are more dangerous than rhinos.
Oh, my God, I can't find it.
I didn't see what you posted about him last night. What'd you say?
Talking about him being a game
wait
changer.
Wait a minute. I did because I responded to that.
The game
Yeah,
changer.
Jim got all upset. I saw that.
I did. Well, okay.
Jim
so
every once in a while gets all fired up, which is great.
Like Kelly Starrett dropping F-bombs in the middle of a podcast.
that was awesome too. But here's the thing: that the kid that made that.
I love that Jim researches the people before he shouts back. Too.
Oh,
That's always the best.
I'm not the only person on the internet that does that.
No,
No, but you are like fucking checking the background check and
because-
everything. I love it.
because
I think it's great.
Yeah, because you end up talking mad shit. The kid squats 1,000 pounds, and you're like, oh, fuck. I should have said something.
When Stan did the meet here in 2009, that kid was 16 years old. So
My name's Silent Mike.
His mama was wiping his diapers.
talk to me about,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's true. I mean, a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that like powerlift but have nothing to do with the culture, or just watch it on YouTube or whatever, and then like to lift heavy in the gym, but they have no idea about competitions or competitors or records. Not that records are everything, but
which is why that the comment that Michael Hearn had made some time in the past about Raw being like nothing, no wraps, no belts, stuff like that, doesn't really apply because these people don't understand. Competition. But no, the point that I made there, and I think the one that Mark was making, is that Stan really was a game changer. At least he was for us, because most of the people here were not lifting raw when he came in 2009. It was a geared crew for the most part, and he was training raw pretty much by himself with the geared people.
much like Silent Mike in 2012.
Much like Silent Mike in 2012. 2011? 2012.
12.
Okay.
Beginning of 12. A bunch of geared heads in here. Now, we have Treston's a big geared lifter, and Buff. That's about
I
it.
think Stan was a real game changer. A huge thing with him was the look. He's a pro bodybuilder and a power lifter at the same time. On top of that, the motherfucker's rich, so he's jacked, he's tan, and he's strong. He kind of possesses everything that almost all of us desire. It's like rich, famous, strong. You're kind of
some bad bitches here and there.
I think that's some of the appeal to some bad bitches up in there too. I think that's some of the appeal with being a professional athlete or being a rock star or those types of things, is that you whether they actually have it all or not is irrelevant. The fact that people view them that way is what's driving them towards that.
It's so true. And that's one thing I think we've talked about in the past that powerlifting's missing, is they don't have like an icon or whatever. Like, you look at LeBron James and you're like, man, he's jacked, he could dunk on everybody, and the same thing, he's rich, he has those factors, and for Stan to come in and actually have those factors and attributes is huge for the sport.
He's sort of the first rock star raw powerlifter, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, and also he was moving weights that were comparable to what other people were doing in gear.
Yeah.
I think his first meet that he did here, I can't recall, or one of the meets he did here, I was like, man, I hope he doesn't out squat me.
Yeah, well,
I can't even recall if we ended up competing on the same platform or how that worked out. But
8:21 the first.
Yeah, he's doing 8 something, and I think at that time my best was like 9:40 or something. I'm like, man, he might
he's
feasible that he'll get me.
He's totaled over 2,000 plenty of times. I mean, that's big.
Yeah, he just did some insane shit here too while he was here. I used to always kind of say, I used to make the point to people like, don't try to kill yourself in here, because no matter what you do, there's nothing that we haven't really seen before. There's nothing that's really going to be that impressive. I trained at Westside Barbell. I trained with a bunch of mutants in the WWE, and I've seen a lot of shit go down before to where it's like, okay, cool, you squatted 700, but I've seen people squat 700 pounds, raw with a blue band and 200 pounds of chains on the bar and stuff, from guys like Chuck Vogelpool and shit like that. You just end up seeing a lot being around powerlifting for a long time and going to a lot of different meets, but I was still wrong, because the Rhino fucking brought it every single time he trained here, and did some crazy shit that was that I didn't even think was really feasible. I actually remember one time intentionally trying to screw him over and intentionally trying to beat him on an exercise after I kind of realized that he was mastering stuff just at an extremely alarming rate. I was like, okay, he's never used a safety squat bar. He's never used bands, so we're doing safety squat bar and bands. And I used. Was also wearing briefs. I'm like, I don't care how I beat him today. I'm going to figure out a way to beat him. And I was all fired up, and in the warm-ups and stuff, I was moving pretty fast, and things were feeling pretty good. And I was like, man, maybe I will get him today. And his first set with the safety squat bar was awful. Second set was terrible. Third set, he goes, yep. And I was like, oh, shit. He moved that one pretty fast. And he's like, Biggs, I think I figured it out. He's shaking his head, and I'm like, oh, fuck. How did he do 3 sets and figure out the safety squat bar contraption that I just put up? But anyway, he ended up kicking my ass, even though I was wearing, multi-ply briefs, and he was just, in a pair of shorty shorts.
And you were fat, and he was jacked.
Yeah, I was probably outweighing him by 40 pounds, 50 pounds at that time, at least.
Yeah,
somewhere in that range.
At least. Well, if you look at the video from that first meet, the weigh-in, when you're weighing him in the bathroom here.
Oh, right.
There's a profile
you
shot
guys
of you.
videotaped you weighing him in the bathroom?
Have you not seen that before?
No, I never
actually
want
weighed
to.
in after him, and that was my heaviest weigh-in of all time. That was like I weighed like 330 or 327 or something disgusting.
No hetero on that one, you homos.
No hetero.
Oh, yeah, he was down to his little,
Posing trunks?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
Like
just wears those under jeans.
The ones that he would wear in the if he was posing in the gym as opposed to posing on stage.
Oh, I have a couple pairs of those.
They look like CrossFitter girl shorts.
My favorite.
Now.
Yep. And, he's just just the way Stan was able to learn and progress was really something amazing to see. And he's a perfectionist. I mean, all the way from his the way that he sleeps, the way that he trains. He has everything dialed in. Everything's all geared in towards him performing the best he possibly can on the platform. And he even learned to fatten up a little bit. He even learned to kind of let it go and not worry about being so lean and being so tight, and having that dried out look is going to, at some point be counterproductive. If you're already, someone like Sam Bird who's already lean, then perhaps you can get away with it. But if it's hard for you to maintain that body weight, you're not going to perform as well. And on that same note, guys like Stan and Dan Green and these leaner guys, the second they get bigger, we saw it with Robot over the last couple weeks.
Jeez.
Robot's put on some weight, and his lifts have gone through the roof. So any of the guys out there that are trying to stay lean, to stay within a weight class, is understandable, but just also realize if you go up 10, 15, 20 pounds, it's going to have a huge increase on the platform. I think I saw Brandon Lilly talk about that recently, where he kind of did a rant about, guys saying, oh, I trained at 210 and now I'm going to get down to 198, or guys getting down to another weight class. And he basically just advised against it, because a lot of times it's a newbie who's never done it before. And if you've never done it before, just make sure you're more concerned about the weight on the platform more so than your weight on the scale.
Pretty often the guys that are very successful at that cut were, wrestlers or something. So they have a history, and their body remembers how to dump weight.
Right, they have a background in that, or they've done it
Dump.
before.
Just dump
as
everywhere.
well.
But everyone's a little different with that kind of stuff. But the point is that Stan has evolved from doing a 2,000-ish total or mid 2,000 total to doing 2303, which was just mind-boggling to see somebody make 300-pound increase on their total when they're already unbelievably strong.
And jacked.
And
It's-
raw.
Yeah, it's different if you gain 20, 30 pounds, put on gear, and then, you get, 200 pounds out of your gear or whatever.
I mean, maybe, I can't remember the numbers that Dan Green was putting up a few years ago.
Yeah, that's a pretty big jump.
Possibly he would be in that category as well, of doing 200 extra pounds on his total, maybe 300 pounds extra on his total. Brandon is probably starting to approach that. I think he kind of nailed almost a 2,000-pound total right off the bat, and then did a 22, whatever he did, 2220, 2230, kind of more recently. But to watch someone put 300 pounds on their totals lifting raw was really extraordinary to see. And like I said, he left no stone unturned. He made sure that everything was dialed in towards towards him performing the best he possibly could on the platform.
Kelly Starrett talked a little bit about nerds, like us lifters being nerds or whatever, or Mark being a nerd and just analyzing everything. And I think Stan kind of epitomizes that, is that he just kind of took it as a challenge and took it as a problem, and he had to solve it, and he solved every little answer, and that's why you're at the top of the game,
He just treated it like it was a profession.
Yeah.
He came at it like he was a pro. He has the means to do so. He's financially set, so he doesn't have to worry about a 9 to 5. He can put all his concentration into just training and resting and eating, and that's exactly what he did. And I think a lot of people that sat back and watched that, some people were probably somewhat jealous of it, but at the same time, I think pretty much everybody admired it, and I think that's what ended up being such a game changer. I think Jim kind of made the point, before 2009, go ahead and try to rattle off a couple, raw powerlifters. And of course there were some, but there was barely a raw category.
Right.
The USPF didn't have one. The USPA didn't exist. The reason why I selected the SPF, when we were looking into different federations, it made no sense to be with the Southern Powerlifting Federation in California. But the reason why I selected it was the only federation at the time that offered all three. And, it offered raw, single ply, and multi-ply. And I thought to myself, well, powerlifting is not about the federation. It's about the lifter. Let the lifter decide where they want to go. These many different factions or fractions exist, and so let people decide.
Hello, Stan.
Marky Mark.
There he is. What's up, Stanley?
Hi, how are you?
How many Viagra did you take for this interview?
I didn't have to take any. You turned me on without any.
Ooh. Whoa.
Really, at your age?
No kidding.
How old is the Rhino nowadays?
Geez, I turned 46 in next week.
Damn.
46, and that horn is just going limp, huh?
Yeah,
It's
that's
just
what
not
happens.
sticking up as straight as it used to.
It's one of the drawbacks.
We gotta figure out something to do with that. So what do you got going on? Where are you living nowadays?
Down in Vegas.
And,
Las Vegas, Nevada, Henderson, just outside of Vegas.
And you found some mutants to train out there. You got Eric Spoto, and you got what's that other guy's name? That tall, handsome guy.
The world's best spotter, Creed.
Well, that's still up for debate. He still has some spotting to do to be the all-time great, but he's up there.
Yeah, we're still training. We picked up a new girl, Brittany Pryor. She's a savage.
Yeah, what is going on with her? She has some just absolutely mind-boggling numbers. She's already in the all-time ranks, and I think she's only competed in a full meet like once or twice, right?
Yeah, she just picked up powerlifting as a hobby. She's been an athlete all her life. She's been a track and field athlete, shot put, discus. I think she's an 8-time All-American. She was a 4-time All-American in high school, and then in college she was a 4-time All-American, 2-time NCAA Division I. I mean, she's just an amazing athlete, and I think that, and plus she's academic All-American, has a master's degree, so she came here to find work and to settle down, and unfortunately bumped into us, and so now she's got nothing better to do but lift weights, so she's doing great at it. She
had something better to do at the Olympia. She wanted to have sex with Silent Mike.
I don't know about that. I just handle the weightlifting portion.
Oh, okay. You're not trying to pin
I think Creed manages. Creed manages.
That was the word.
Quote manages.
That was the word from Creed. Yeah. So we were at dinner with her and all of you the Saturday night of the Olympia this year, and I was sitting very close to her, and I was just blown away by how down to earth she is. Like, she has all this incredible physical and academic prowess, and you wouldn't guess that she had, that she was brimming over with self-confidence, or she was, looked down on anybody about anything. She's just like real eager to perform well and make everybody happy.
yeah, she's excited to be there. She doesn't have a prima donna complex. She just wants to lift and lift well, and she doesn't think that what she does as of yet is anything miraculous. She thinks she has a lot left in her, and she's just kind of barely, scratched the surface of her powerlifting capabilities. So she's just enjoying it. She doesn't know all the players and the game. She's has never historically been a big powerlifting fan, and just never really followed the sport. So everything that she sees and learns and people that she meets is all new to her. So it's a refreshing viewpoint. So she just wants to train and get better.
Have you been somebody who followed the sport for a long time? I know that you did some powerlifting, years and years ago. But did you really follow the sport, or did you use strength training to build yourself up as a bodybuilder?
I never followed the sport. I did strength training to build myself up as a bodybuilder, and in the late, like 95, 96, 97, I did a few meets, and just kind of local stuff that was in my backyard there. And then I kind of retired from competing bodybuilding, powerlifting in 97, and even when I came back, I wasn't really aware of who the players were. I logged on to some websites that listed the names of the people who had the records, and I was more looking at the numbers than the individuals. And
yeah, that's why you call
over time
you call everybody Biggs, because you don't remember anybody's name.
I couldn't pick my mom out of a lineup. I got such face blind that it's terrible. It's terrible.
You have no problem looking in the mirror though and recognizing that guy, right?
That's true. That's true.
Well, you shave him every morning, so
yeah, you got to shear up the whole body every morning.
I didn't go that far, but yeah.
Well, I find that really interesting that there seems to be more and more people that are crossing over to the sport that pick it up kind of as a hobby, or I mean it is kind of a hobby sport anyway, but they kind of come into it with not this crazy passion for it, and they don't have a powerlifter's mindset. And what I find amazing about that is that they come in the sport, and a lot of times, like you did, they come in and they dominate. What do you think are some factors that lead to that? Is it the fact that you're maybe not maxing out, maybe you don't care about the weights quite as much? What do you think contributes to some of that?
Well, I think historically I always did try and lift heavy weights, but for me it was just the fact that I've been lifting for 25 years. That's kind of what's led to some of that old man strength that I've got. But I never really focused strictly on powerlifting. I did a lot of bodybuilding movements, and I think that helped me be well-rounded so that I didn't have weaknesses, as we were doing a lot of variations of exercises. So I think for me it was just time under tension, years and years and years and years.
When we first met, I was pretty rounded.
Yeah, I'd say so. I didn't judge you for it.
We were kind of discussing this a few days ago, basically kind of saying that we feel that you're one of the contributing factors, one of the main contributing factors to this surgence of raw lifting in the powerlifting community. And you're somebody who's had a big impact on a lot of lifters. I think a lot of lifters, when you came into the sport, started moving some big weight, I think a lot of lifters looked down at their guts and they were like, why am I so fucking fat and why am I so weak? Because they saw the kind of weights that you were able to handle. Were you strong kind of starting out? I mean, I know you started pretty long time ago, but did you start with some decent amount of strength? Did you start out big, or what's your background?
No, I was tiny. When I got to college, I was 145 pounds. I couldn't bench 135. I remember having to take the 45-pound plates off and put in the 35 zone, and it was embarrassing. All the fraternity boys standing around the bench press on National Bench Day on Monday night at the local gym there, and so that was frustrating. I can remember it. I can still remember it. And even though I had a little weight set in the garage growing up, we had those old Weeder weight sets with the concrete-filled, plastic-coated weights, right, with the bar that was about the size of a toothbrush that would bend all the time. But I was just so skinny. I was dieting for wrestling all the time, but I wrestled 98 as a freshman, sophomore, and 106 as a junior. So, and by the time I got to college, I was only 145. I just wanted to be bigger. I was tired of being skinny, so I just started lifting weights. But even after 3 years of training, I was 21 years old. I only weighed 160. because I just did everything wrong. I trained 7 days a week, 2 hours a day. I didn't eat enough food. I was eating chicken breasts and rice cakes like some bodybuilder behind the counter at the local Gold's Gym. I didn't have any concept or any clue, and that was before the internet came along, so information was hard to come by. And then, fortunately today there's so many great lifters and there's so much access to information that I think people can quickly hit the ground running and correct a lot of amateur mistakes and get good faster.
You mentioned your old man strength coming along. Was there like a age or a year you felt you made the most growth, whether it be like hypertrophy or strength?
I kind of got back into lifting in about 2006, but I wasn't really lifting super heavy. And somewhere around 2008, I started lifting heavier. So I was almost 40 when that came back. In 1997, when I was kind of at my peak, I was 285 or so pounds. I was competing at 275 in powerlifting. I only did one free-lift meet and a couple of bench deads back in 96, 97. I was only benching 730. I was only squatting 735, 30. I was only squatting 750. So those two lifts improved quite a bit, just from years, many more years of training. But the deadlift, oddly enough, I pulled 782 in 1997, and didn't pull much more than that in 2009, 10, 11, 12. It's a frustrating lift, that deadlift.
You ended up with an 837 deadlift, is that right? Or 840?
Yeah, and that was kind of out of my head. That was by far the best I've ever pulled. I mean, I pulled 815 a couple times in the gym, pretty solid. But 837 was my all-time best lift. And I tend to be a meat lifter. I tend to get up for those particular lifts. I can usually get 20, 30, maybe even 40 pounds more than the gym, depending on the lift.
You've mentioned it before. How you kind of you almost don't understand when guys get overly hyped up before they do a lift, and I guess kind of each person has their own approach. What's your approach to some of these world record rate? Easy for me to say. Some of these world record weights that you've hit.
Well, I mean, I try and do everything in training. My toughest challenge has always been that my form, because I don't powerlift year-round. I've only done so few meets, and I bodybuild most of the year from competing in shows. So my technique has always suffered, my form, my balance.
Bad coaching,
probably.
Like,
well, or only,
shitty coaches at super training.
Even when I come down and train with you, I'm only training with you for a couple months. Right. And the rest of the year, I'm pretty much bodybuilding and competing. So I'll do a couple of those shows. But so my challenge has always been technique, and so
that's what you're thinking.
I'm focused on.
That's what you're thinking about. Whether you have 700, 800, 900, whatever's on the bar, you're not focused in on being like angry or being fired up. You're focused in on your technique.
I'm focused on execution. Yeah, absolutely. I know I have to do everything just the way I did it for the previous months and then warm up in the backstage. I'm focused on execution. So I'm just concentrating on staying in the pocket, especially with squats, because my balance is so challenging with the squats. I'm all over the place. So I'm just trying to balance, and I usually feel as though I can get out of the hole.
Seems like you're a huge advocate of talking about recovery a lot, and you got some huge bumps in your success from training here at Super Training. You had some huge bumps in your success from training with Flex Wheeler and getting your pro card with him. But you also mentioned that, when you were training with us, that sometimes it was too much, the benching twice a week or, trying to get a PR every week type stuff was a little too much. You also mentioned the kind of the overtraining that you did with Flex, but it did kind of get you to that next level. So what are some of your thoughts on, the things that you've come to realize for yourself that you needed to actually just commit to do for yourself more recently to kind of break break through from 2,200 to 2,300?
Well, I had to come to terms with the fact that I was over 40. I wasn't 25 anymore, and my body didn't recover as quickly, and I was more susceptible to tendinitis and those types of things, which can really hamper performance. And I never felt any of that when I was 25, 30, even competing back then. I never had tendinitis. I never had any problem recovering from workouts. So I did have to rest longer was the big thing, and I wanted to train more. I'm competitive. I want to get in there, and I think the mindset is if you work harder, you're going to get better. But at some point, I needed to realize I had to work smarter, and so I focused every workout on making sure I was, from the minute I finished the workout, making sure that I did everything I could do to recover. And that would include a lot of things. It would include, immediately starting meals and nutrition to recuperate from that workout, and then every 3 hours thereafter. It included a lot of sleep, at least eight plus hours a night, plus a nap in the afternoon. It could include
like a baby,
some sort of like a baby. I just sleep, eat, and poop. That was about all I could do to try and keep up. You do have to get the overload, the central nervous system overload, and lift plenty of weights, sure. But for me, recovery was huge, and so I employed some massage therapy, used some electric stimulation, TENS units to try and, get lactic acid out and stimulate recovery. It's hard when you rest that much and laying around. There's not much blood flow, so you got to get electric stim or massage therapy. Anywhere I had tendinitis, I had to do electric stim and try and get the deep tissue to work through any muscle pulls, so I wouldn't have scar tissue building up. The whole cadre of things that I put together, and I was very disciplined about. And even more recently, in the last year and a half, working with Mark Philippi for flexibility, because that became an issue ongoing. It hampered my ability to get into the hole on the squats, and it was decreasing my recovery time. So we worked on flexibility a lot over the course of the time that I attempted the 2,300 the first time and then got it the second time.
On the topic of recovery, what are some supplements you take, and do they vary from maybe bodybuilding to powerlifting?
They do vary. I'm not a big fan of supplements for powerlifting. I don't rely on them. I want to get a lot of food in, particularly a lot of animal proteins and cholesterol, because that's how hormones are manufactured in the body. That's how you can gain weight. And when you're eating tons and tons of food, and when you're powerlifting, you don't need a supplement, particularly like a protein powder or something like that. It's unnecessary. You're already overloaded on protein. Pre-workout and post-workout, I'm a fan of. Just because you're in the gym for possibly 2 or 3 hours during a big squat session, and you're doing a lot of heavy weights. So I'll throw in some amino acids and some creatine and some sort of mineral electrolyte tablet and something for a little bit of carbohydrates to drink right before a workout and throughout the workout. I try and take in a lot of fluids. And then post-workout, I'll immediately have some sort of shake, and lately I just settle in on chocolate milk because it's cheap and it's convenient and it tastes good. So it doesn't matter to me. Just a little bit of carbohydrates and some protein, because within half an hour, 40 minutes of the time I leave the gym, I'm headed to eat a big meal. And so I'm focused on food. Now, bodybuilding's different because I'm at a calorie restriction, at least, even though I can diet on over 4,000 calories and drop weight. It's still a restriction over the 5 or 6 or 6,500 that I might have been eating when I was powerlifting. Jesus. And so there I might pull in some whey proteins.
By the way, that's a fuckload of food. Just for the people out there that don't understand, it's a lot of food. That's a lot of food, probably spanning over, 8 meals or so?
Yeah, we work up to 7 or 8 meals. And it's hard to eat when it's clean. This isn't pizza, and it's not.
Can you give us an idea of what type of food you're eating, how many ounces, and so on? Just mainly I like to stick with animal proteins such as lean red meats. I'll throw in eggs in the morning, but I also like to get in lean red meat or a low fat ground beef product, whether it be a hamburger or a bison burger or something like that. I'm not a big fan of chicken. I don't think that there's enough calories in it.
or whitefish. When I eat those things, and you imagine how many pounds of chicken or whitefish you have to eat to get in 5,000+ calories a day.
Right.
It's not very calorie dense. 4 ounces is 100 calories for 3 or 4 ounces. I need the fats. Definitely with my metabolism, need more fats, and to keep the proteins real high. And then, I've always been a fan of carbs when I'm competing. Only when I'm trying to cut weight quick do I pull carbs out, but I put them right back in as I get as my workload increases or as I'm powerlifting. But it's a lot of food, and it's clean food, and it's focused mostly on animal proteins. I'm eating so much steak my teeth get sore. It's the kind of thing that's the kind of product, food that sticks to you.
Right.
And unlike shakes, when you're drinking shakes, they're in and out of your body so quick that
Sometimes
I've
really
never
quick.
been able to.
Yeah.
Really quick. I've never been able to gain or even maintain a decent body mass drinking a lot of shakes.
You gave me some advice a long time ago, which I thought was great, and I think it's something everybody could use, is basically only use a protein shake to augment a meal. So, you throw in 1 or 2 scoops of whey protein along with your foods that you're eating, so that way it's not digesting 100 miles an hour.
That's true. Yeah, especially when I was traveling. If I could only, grab a chicken sandwich somewhere, that probably wasn't enough quality protein,
right,
or enough total calories. So I would throw in a protein shake with that chicken sandwich. I'd never drink them in isolation. A scoop of protein's 100 calories. Just imagine how many scoops of protein you'd have to drink.
Right.
And if you want to gain weight on protein shakes, it's usually loaded with sugar and it's vegetable fats is typically what they throw in there, and I don't think that's a good way to get bigger or stronger. I think you do need the animal fats, you do need the cholesterol, you do need things that'll stick to you, that take a couple hours to digest.
For all these kids that are coming at us saying, "Hey, I can't gain weight. What do I do?" You already mentioned red meat over chicken, probably, but what are some of your carb sources that help you get your calories up, or a really calorie dense meal that's kind of your go-to?
Yeah, I've never focused on carbs for calorie density because fats are 2.5 times as calorie dense as carbohydrates. So I always focus on fats for gaining weight.
Talking cheesecake?
No, you only use carbs for energy. And if I have to pile something on my plate, I'm going to pile something on there that gives me more calories. So it's going to be fats, and I'll never have a huge mound of carbohydrates on my plate, because that would take place of I'd fill up on that before I had an opportunity to get way more calories from a fat source. And so I'll stick with those. One of my big things for kids coming up that want to gain weight is whole milk is a fantastic way to add calories to every meal. If you just add 2 or 3 cups of milk to each meal, you can easily get a gallon a day with 5 meals, and that's like over 2,000 calories a day in a gallon of whole milk.
I remember we were at one of the trade shows. You and I a lot of times have been together on the trade shows, having the same booth, and you made some. You always the places that you stay at. You always stay at a place that has a kitchen, so that way you can cook and all that kind of stuff, even when you're on the road. But I remember you made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You made like 5 or 6 of them. And you also made turkey cheese and mayonnaise sandwiches or something on one of the other days. And you whipped them out for me and Jesse, and you're like, "Here, eat a sandwich. Like, you guys need to eat." And so we start eating, and we turn around and we look behind, like you're like behind your own poster. And we're like, "What the hell is he eating over there?" And you're eating like clean. You're eating like chicken or steak or whatever. And we're like, "What the fuck is this about?" The old switcheroo,
I think I remember.
You're like, "Well, you guys are fucking fat. It doesn't matter. He goes, "You guys just need fuel. It really doesn't matter at this point." We're like, "Son of a bitch!" There you are, standing there all ripped up.
Frequency is important, and I do generally eat pretty clean. Creed always complains about that. We'll go to a restaurant, and I'll tell him that this dessert here is incredible, and so he'll order it, and then they'll ask me, I'll be, "No, I'm good."
I like when I was out there in Vegas at your gym there with Spoto and Creed, And me, you, and Creed are standing around Eric being like, dude, you just got to fatten up. You got to gain some more weight. You got to gain like 20 or 30 pounds. He's like, fuck you guys. Look how fat I already am. He's like, you guys are standing there all lean. It's easy for you to say. And he's like, watch this. He's like, I'm gonna ask this girl who lifts the most or who benches the most. And just some random girl walking by, he's like, hey, who do you think benches the most? And she pointed, I think you had your back turned towards her, but you still look all jacked and ripped up, so she pointed to you. And he's like, see? He's like, you guys keep telling me to get fat, and I'm looking horrible.
People don't realize that Spoto sees himself, his body image is of a bodybuilder, and that's really what he wants to be.
Right.
Yeah, that's true, and he may get there someday. But in the meantime, we're trying to get a 750 out of him, and so we're pushing him a different direction.
Yeah,
mass moves mass, particularly with those kind of weights. So
let's talk about this for a minute. I know you trained with a lot of people over the years, a lot of great bodybuilders, and I know that you trained with Ryan Kennelly and some other great lifters over the years. What the fuck is up with Eric Spoto?
Well, he's a mutant, and there's certain guys like that out there. I mean, what do you say about Milanichev's squat? I mean, right. It's just you can't fathom. There's just no way to really put a finger on it. There's just certain guys that have mutant strength. Most of them just in one lift. Milanichev's a freak, across the board with his deadlift as well. And Eric's one of those guys that no matter how hard you train or for how long, you realize that there's just certain people out there that have a gift. And that's not to say that he hasn't worked hard for a long time, because he was benching over 400 in high school. But he's just a different kind of machine. And to watch him lift, he comes in on a light day and will triple 600-pound bench presses like it's nothing, and drop down and do close grips with 500 for a dozen or 15 reps. And you just have to shake your head and realize that there's just certain people out there that have a whole nother level, a whole nother gift, and I'm in awe of that as I travel around, even with the things that I've been able to succeed on in my life. As I've traveled around the country and trained with different people, I'm constantly humbled by the level of talent, whether it be a guy that like a Ryan Kennelly or an Eric Spoto that has these huge benches, or you go deadlift with when I was deadlifting with Alex.
Yeah.
Well, Alexi recently, Dan Green. Certain people just have a whole other level of whole other gear that you can't even fathom. And at some point, you got to say to yourself, no matter how hard I train or how long, there's certain things that you're just not going to be able to achieve, and the 700 bench press is not one of them for me. That's for sure. And so I just watch it on.
Can Eric Spoto, can he squat or deadlift at all?
Well, that's the funny thing about Eric is he was known for his squat in high school. He squatted 675 for a triple in high school. Problem is he got in a motorcycle accident in his early 20s, and he broke his ankle real bad, and he has a pins and a plate in his ankle, and so he's mentally he's conscious of it, and so occasionally we can get him to throw a safety bar squat on and throw 500 pounds and box squat 10 reps, and it doesn't even look hard for him. He's such a it's hard to describe.
Does he move okay? I mean, he's a huge guy. Can he, does he break in parallel and all that too?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't worry about it. It's not a huge concern for him. Right. But he doesn't do little half reps, and he'll deadlift 500 no problem. He pulled a 6 with us, and but he doesn't like to do it because it bothers his back or it bothers his ankle, and it's just not what he is. He's not interested in doing it too much anymore. Machine. He's a machine. He's a bench pressing machine. He's a powerful guy, and you got to realize too that he was also just a savage arm wrestler. He was slamming world champions like they were nothing. And if you ever locked up with the guy in arm wrestling, you go hand to hand with how big and strong his hands and his forearms are. You realize you're a man. You're a boy in a man's world when a guy's that big and strong.
Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing.
It's embarrassing the things he can do, and that's not just on the bench press. Like every piece of equipment he gets on in the gym. I mean, he hit. I think he tripled a 500-pound behind the neck shoulder press, like it was nothing.
Holy shit. That's fucking insane.
Yeah, he's just, the things he does is just mutant strength to watch what he does.
Let's talk about sports for a minute. I know that you had a scholarship for soccer. Is that right?
Yeah, coming out of high school, I was offered a scholarship to play soccer, and the coach wanted me to put on some weight. He thought I was undersized, and that's when I went and trained the summer before soccer season. And I was happy training. I wanted to get bigger, and I knew what I wanted to do.
So kids out there, if you want a 900-pound squat, you're going to have to play some soccer. I know that you also worked with some athletes over the years. You worked with Keith Williams, I believe is his name. Is that correct?
After I graduated from college, I was training a lot down at the University of Oregon. And I started bumping into football players who wanted some advice or some help training, and I just started training a lot of the guys on the team, linemen, running backs. It didn't matter, whoever could handle it. A lot of guys came in and would go through one workout and go out back and puke and never come back. But the ones that stayed, about a dozen of them over the course of about 4 or 5 years that I worked with guys, they all played some NFL ball. It was a good group of guys, and they worked hard, and their big thing was they overtrained and underate. And so once we started changing that philosophy and bringing, post-workout shakes and making sure they got a ton of meals in and decreased their workload, because these guys would train daily doubles, 2 hours at a shot. They'd be training 4 hours a day. So as we decreased their workload and increased their meals, they started getting way better results from their training, and they would gain weight and speed. Speed, the byproduct of strength, and I've always taught that more muscle translates to better speed and explosiveness. So I had a fun run with those guys, and I still, stay in touch with them, and I've had an opportunity to work with a lot of guys over the years that have done well in different sports. It was track runners, football players, wrestlers, just anybody who was interested. Recently worked with a pro basketball player who kept having repeat injuries, and once we put some weight and some muscle on him, all of a sudden his back pain started going away. Right. So it's just, I think it's the fountain of youth. I think it's the underpinning to every good successful athlete. And to me, it always started with recovery, and I just used the weight training to stimulate.
It seems like you have just an old school approach to a lot of stuff. Just kind of tried and true exercises that have lasted the test of time. Even down to your dieting and your rest protocols and all that kind of stuff. How do you yourself ignore all the noise that's out there with diets like intermittent fasting, carb backloading, all these different fads that kind of come and go? It ends up being very difficult, especially when some of these guys that are in their 20s. It's very difficult for them to kind of put their blinders on and just listen to the old school advice. So, what's kind of your take on some of this stuff that's going on nowadays?
Well, I have the benefit of hindsight. I've lived through all of the fads. I've seen them over 30 years now. Things come and go. I've tried just about everything. I've worked with athletes who've tried just about everything, and I've seen what works and what doesn't, what was a fad. And that's not just in, for powerlifting or bodybuilding, but for any sport. And all of the nutritional fads that have come and gone, all of the mega doses of vitamins and all the other things that people, try and grab onto over the years as the next greatest thing. And there really isn't any next greatest thing. And I think that, that's what I got out of meeting with Flex Wheeler as well. After all those years of having studied exercise science myself and having trained other athletes and myself, I sat down with Flex Wheeler and I thought, finally, I'm going to see behind the curtain. The Wizard of Oz is going to show me the magic trick here. And after an hour of sitting and talking to him, I had nothing written on my piece of paper. I realized that it was all hard work. He told me, how often we were going to train, how hard we were going to train, how much we were going to eat. And there was no secrets. And that's, I think that's what everybody finds out after a while, that it's all hard work. There are no shortcuts.
That's really what turned you into a pro bodybuilder, right? I mean, it was just him kicking your ass twice a day. I think you said you did like 10 sets of 10 in the morning and 10 sets of 10 at night or some shit like that, right?
Yeah, and the sets and reps and the schemes and the weight and the drop sets and all that other stuff, I don't think that it was all that important. I think that anybody can get results from training if they train hard enough, but it's just a stimulus for growth. You don't grow muscle in the gym. All you do is break it down, and we're really focused on the recovery phase. And it's just a matter of how hard you work, how consistently you worked, how much you paid attention to your recovery and your body. You would look at me daily and tell me whether or not I needed to put in more red meat or switch to chicken for a day or two and see if I flattened out, or if, we just monitored it on an ongoing basis. We tracked everything, and it just wasn't any secrets. There was no easy road, and I think everybody discovers that after a while, that it's just a matter of hard work and consistency. That's the thing. You can go balls to the wall for 4, 5, 6 weeks, and then drop off for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and you're kind of right back to where you started.
Another big part of it, another big part of you becoming a pro bodybuilder, and was probably the fact that you felt you need to seek out Flex Wheeler, and then there you are training with him. So the fact that you invested the time to spend with him, and you also you had that faith in him, you had that faith in your coach, you had the faith in the system. That alone carries a lot of weight.
I mean, how can you not? You get a legendary Hall of Fame, one of the winningest pro bodybuilders of all time. And sure, he's gifted, much the way in bodybuilding that Eric is, and Eric Spoto is in powerlifting. He's gifted, there's no question. But it doesn't matter. At some point, everybody has to work extremely hard to compete at such a top level. And I can read everything that anybody's ever written, but it's really different. If you want to be the best, I felt as though you had to train with the best. And so I went down there, and I just moved into an extended stay across from the gym, and I stayed there for almost 3 months. And Flex came and trained me twice a day, and we worked our asses off. And then it wasn't but a week after winning my pro card that I packed up my bags and I moved to Sacramento and stayed in an extended stay and started training with you. And it was a completely different style of training, but it was the same amount of intensity and commitment day in, day out. And I was able to learn from what I felt was the best powerlifting coach in the country. And
people were very jealous of our relationship, by the way.
Well, yeah, but they didn't get.
I mean, how much oil do you really need for a powerlifting workout? I mean, I guess I was just listening to you because I was like, well, he's the bodybuilder, but so we just oiled each other up, and that's just the way it was.
Those were uncomfortable times.
Well, I thought it was the first thing I said when I came into your gym was, "Where's the mirrors? There's no mirrors in your gym."
Damn right.
They're in the bathroom.
I hadn't squatted without a mirror probably my whole life. It was a whole different experience, but it was the same. It was the same type of learning experience for me. And we sat down before we even started lifting and kind of hashed out a plan, and it was much the same from you. And just went in for the first workout, and you videotaped my technique, and were already critiquing me, and I had done one set.
Yeah.
And I realized from that very moment that we were headed in the right direction. And I think my previous highest total was what was it?
I don't know. You were fucking garbage when you came in, though. You sucked.
Yeah, it was terrible. And we probably added 200 pounds to my total.
Yeah, you totaled a little over 2,000.
2,000?
I mean, you had
2,070, something like that.
Yeah, you definitely had the frame to do it all. Jim has a question for you.
Yeah, so we hear a lot about retirement now. Is it true? Are you really done? And if so, like how? So how are you training now? If that is true, then how are you training now?
Well, the first thing that I had to realize is I was probably way past my window of opportunity when I did my 2300. I was 45 years old. And I was kind of on a decline. I always thought I was on a decline since the time I turned about 40. It was harder and harder and harder to lift at that level. Harder on my body physically, harder on me mentally. It was just more and more difficult to gain weight, more and more difficult to recover from lifting the weight. So I've always felt like, and even after I finished my last pro show in bodybuilding in I think it was early 2012. I was done. I was in the gym. I was probably 250, 255. I was just doing my little CrossFit PX90 mankini workouts, you know. And I was fine, but then I bumped into Eric and Creed, and next thing you know, you start getting the fire again. But I thought I was done then. And, you know, somehow I managed to be able to put the weight back on. It was a long, hard slog, and we got, you know, we had good success. We attempted that meet in November where I missed my opening squat. But I was strong. I was the strongest I'd ever been. So I knew I had it in me. So we knuckled down and carried it out through March. But, you know, in the meantime, during the last couple of years, I've got a daughter now. She's 18 months old. I've got a son on the way. He's going to be due in February. We'll stay in junior.
Congratulations.
And, yeah, I mean, that's exciting. And I've done about everything I think I can do in the sport. And, you know, I think that I push myself about as hard as I can push myself. And at my age, I just think that I'm headed the wrong direction if I keep trying to do. I just can't keep up with what I used to do or what, you know, some of the up-and-coming athletes are doing. I mean, I'd love to be able to continue to compete and train with guys like Eric Lillybridge and you know, maybe even in the back of my head, I thought if I could get up to 308, then I could start chasing Milanishev. But those are pipe dreams. You know, those guys they're just too solid, too young, too strong. And, you know, I'm just going to enjoy watching them now. At some point, I think every athlete has to realize that that whether it's your Brett Favre or Michael Jordan, there's a time at which you should have quit. you know,
you hate to be that guy.
Yeah, I don't want to be the guy that tries to come back one more time and ends up snapping something on the platform and be like, oh, now you should have quit.
I remember talking to Go ahead.
What's that?
I remember talking to Ed Cohn the night before his last meet, and somebody said, why are you retiring? He said, you know, I'm just not that interested in going over 90% anymore in the gym or anywhere else. I'm just like, I've done it. I'm done.
It really becomes challenging, both physically and mentally at my age, because it's such an undertaking. I wake up every morning feeling like I was in a car accident. And I read something funny on the internet one time. A guy was blogging about a powerlifter was blogging about his day, and he said, wake up 7 a.m., take an inventory of what hurts. And my inventory was everything. And it took me 10 minutes just to get out of bed. My pops is 83, and I started getting up and walking like him. And that was kind of an eye opener for me when we were both kind of walking the same, all hunched over all the time. And he had a cane, and I wish I had one. And so it just became kind of too hard to carry that much weight and to lift that much weight on the central nervous system, on the body in general. And you don't just hurt, the muscles don't just hurt, you hurt right down to the bone. And you know, I appreciate all the powerlifters who subject themselves to that thing. I just like Eddie. I was going to mention Eddie, you know, and he ultimately ended up with a hip replacement surgery, and I'm on the verge of that myself if I keep trying to push myself too hard, because I've had problems with my hip for many years now.
To change gears for just a second, you know, back in 2009, we made a video that has, you know, been huge on YouTube since then, called "Johnny Jackson is Scared of the Rhino," and in it, we used some clips of some things that Ronnie Coleman had done on video and some things that you had done in comparison. And the most common comment that I get is, "Oh, he shouldn't be comparing himself to Ronnie," blah 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 blah. And oh, Ronnie was depleted when he did this and that. What's your reaction to that? Because I don't know if we've ever really talked about it.
Well, Ronnie's the GOAT. Ronnie's the greatest of all time, and he's you know, I've never won a pro show, let alone competed on the Olympia stage, so there's no comparison to be had. I think the reason that we put those videos in there was more to show what we felt was the world's strongest bodybuilder at the time, not Johnny Jackson, but Ronnie Coleman. And how what I was lifting in comparison, and it certainly wasn't the indictment of Ronnie. It was just that you couldn't find a video of Johnny Jackson squatting, let alone his weight. Right. And you couldn't find a video of him benching over 500 pounds, because he's never done it. So, you know, we just put some bigger lifts in there, because if you'd put those smaller lifts, then half the country would be like, well, I can do that.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, it's more to show the scale of what I was doing in comparison to what, you know, we felt one of the best of all time was doing, and in the powerlifting sense, I was lifting, you know, pretty similar weights, and that, to me, that it bode well for what we were trying to do, which was promote the world's strongest bodybuilder competition at the time. And mind you, that whole world's strongest bodybuilder, that was, I mean, it's a real event, but the promoters wanted it promoted, and so
Right.
They encouraged us to be, you know, outgoing and competitive, and you know, it's no different than when you watch lead-ups to fights for the UFC or any other
No
sport.
WWE.
You want to put butts in seats, and so the controversy helps, but you know, you also want to get familiar with the athletes and what they're doing, what they can do, and so, you know, we worked closely with the promoters of that show to make sure that we developed some controversy and some interest in the whole thing. I never had any misgivings about Johnny. You know, I didn't know him, and you know, he's an accomplished bodybuilder. He's been on the Olympia stage many times, and I've never been there. So, you know, and I've said it too in the interview after the meet, that I don't mean anything negative towards these guys. I do this for fun, always have, and we had a lot of fun with it. And you know, that's probably one of the biggest things I'll miss about not competing is how much fun it was to come up and train with you guys and to compete and to meet all of the great lifters, and just the process. It was pretty extraordinary. I'm glad I went through it.
You've really changed a lot of stuff over here. We ran a meet pretty much for you, because we didn't have anything scheduled, so we decided, well, fuck it, let's, you know, Stan's strong, and he'll be stronger in about 5-6 weeks, so let's plan on running a meet at X time. And so we slapped together a meet. The meet was free due to your courtesy, and we only had like 16 or 17 lifters at that meet. Now at every single meet that we have, there's at least 40 or 50, and like, you know, with this backyard meet thing, it's just really gotten crazy to where there's, you know, it's been on lockdown for the last few months, which I apologize to some of the people that I had to keep out of the meet, but there's only so many lifters that we can have on the platform. So basically what I'm saying is a lot of this is your fault. So many people have been inspired by some of the videos and stuff they saw, and people have been excited with some of the different things that you've done, and so now, you know, with every single meet that we do, we have more and more folks showing up, especially from the Raw crowd.
The people who powerlift do it because they love the sport, and you know, they'd like to share it with as many people as possible, but they compete against as many people as possible, and so I think that activity breeds activity, and I think we were able to put on a good show. And you know, even subsequent to that, you know, I wasn't trying to just do a meet at your gym. I wanted to have the best lifters there, as did you, and for it to be a centerpiece and a focal point and a hub for the greatest lifters in the country to come lift. And so we worked hard to make sure that we brought the best lifters there that we could, the Dan Greens and the Eric Lilly Bridges and all the rest of them. And so it's gotten, you know, it's really gotten better and better, and it's gotten to be recognized as a great platform to compete on, and at powerlifting and or anything that you do underneath the umbrella of Super Training Gym and Power Magazine. I mean, it's really developed over the last few years.
With a lot of the stuff you've been talking about, you know, pretty much the entire theme of this segment has been, you know, hard work, consistency, that kind of stuff. And we've been talking about, you know, weight training pretty much the whole time, and lifting and that kind of thing. What about business? I know that you know, we've seen cribs and stuff. I think maybe one of the magazines did that with you. They followed you at your house. I've actually been to your house, which was amazing, the place you had up in Washington. Have you carried some of that hard work and stuff like that over to you know, the business world, or do you just have a good business sense? Do you read a lot of business books? Did you go to school for business, or how did some of that come about? I think you hit it right on the head. Business to me was the same as powerlifting or bodybuilding. It's the hardest working, most consistent, most disciplined people who you know, have grit and determination. They succeed, and that's really all there is to it. You don't give up. You just keep hammering away. And, you know, I spent years working for and studying under some great mentors, learning about
real estate and learning about business, and finally ventured out on my own. And just like with bodybuilding, I wasn't born, bodybuilding, powerlifting, I wasn't born with any particular gifts. I was a small guy, and in life, I wasn't born wealthy, and I've always had to fight for, every dollar that I've earned. And it wasn't until later in life even that I started my own business. Until I was 34, I think, is the first time I started my own business. Prior to that, I was running businesses and successful companies for other people. But eventually I learned enough and felt confident enough, and I ventured out, and it was no easy road. I started out flat broke with debt and credit card debt, and collecting agencies calling me all the time, mortgaged my home, and I was eating at McDonald's every day, dollar meals. I had just no money. I didn't even go to the gym for over a year. I couldn't even afford a membership.
Wow. And
slowly but surely, I built up, a business out of my apartment into a $25 million a year business with over 100 employees doing business in 25 states. And that was successful for me. And kind of diverted those investments into real estate. And for many years, I was developing multifamily apartment communities, building single-family subdivisions, had some commercial real estate. And then when the real estate market crashed, I had significant holdings in the real estate market, so I got hit pretty hard there. But we redoubled our efforts and diverted our interest into another company down in Dallas, an engineering firm. And we've been running that for a few years now, and it's been successful. We have a couple other ventures in mind moving forward, but it's been hard work. There's no easy road. It can be slow. It has lots of ups and downs. It can be challenging, stressful, and I think bodybuilding, powerlifting has been a nice outlet for me in light of all that.
I think it's fair to say that that many of us have been inspired by that aspect. I know that Mark has for sure been inspired. I mean,
hell yeah,
the slingshot and the and Power Magazine sort of we're sort of reaching that critical launch point about the time that we met you, and I think it probably sort of steeled his nerves to push forward the way he did.
Well, and that's a good point.
Well, you and I had quite the role reversal too. Of I was fat as fuck and broke. you were ripped and rich, and then we switched for a little bit there when you got all bloated for your meat and had the real estate crash.
Yeah, I got all exactly. No, I got hit pretty hard, but we hung in there. I was fortunate in that I bought everything I owned in cash, and only my investments were leveraged. Only the multifamily and the subdivisions were leveraged, but I was always real cautious. I've historically been very conservative financially, and it would be hard to think that after coming up and seeing a $2.5 million home on the lake and a Rolls Royce in my garage, and that didn't sound very conservative. But in when you look at how much money I was earning at the time, it wasn't a significant portion of what I was earning. I wasn't out leveraging myself against with huge mortgages on a home I couldn't afford, and I had a solid business, had a solid business sense, and it's unlike a lot of pro athletes. 80% of retired NFLers go bankrupt, and a lot of time it's because they overspend and overmortgage themselves, and then that income ends someday, and usually someday soon, because the life of an NFL athlete is relatively short. And then replacing that income becomes a challenge. So I had a longer term business set up, so I was fortunate to be able to turn directions and start a new company and become successful at that. And I never doubted it would be. I knew it would be hard. I never doubt I would be successful, because it didn't come down to being the smartest or anything like that. It just came down to being willing to knuckle down and work hard. And you know that from all the things that you've done. It takes a lot of work putting together a magazine and a website and a product launch, and it's constant.
So is it safe to say that you've been trafficking heroin for the last 25 years? Is that the majority of your income has been from that? Can we say that here on the air?
Oh, my God. That's hilarious. I was just in Panama. I was guest posting at a bodybuilding show down in Panama a few weeks ago. And I came back and the customs, when I landed in Vegas, they just had a field day with me. They were all like, it was like a party. They were gathering around, looking into my bag, waiting to see what they were going to find. It was like Christmas or something. And the guy opens up my bag, and they're all peeking in it to look and see what's in my bag. I get a lot of that. So but like, you know, with business as with bodybuilding, powerlifting, it's all been hard work. It's all been hard fought. It's all taken many, many years. And I've never been able to see any shortcuts. And my old boss, my old mentor used to tell me, anytime somebody tells you they're going to double your money, turn around and run.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You have anything new going on? I mean, you mentioned some new business projects to me. I don't know if you want to share that here, or is that still
I've got a couple
works?
products I'm working on. We're working on a supplement line that isn't everybody, but we have a pretty unique model for distribution. It's hard to develop a supplement line now. The big boys are kind of tied in with the cheese manufacturers. It's a commodity now. You know, that usually whey is purchased in futures. It's so hard to get, and it's locked down ever since Gatorade got into the market with their whey drinks. It's really been a difficult commodity to buy, and it's very expensive. So learning a lot about that part of the business, but I think a supplement company is still a good business. I think that I know from statistics that the supplement industry is still growing, and it will continue to grow at a rapid rate. Right. So we think that's a good business to get into. And we like it because it's recurring revenue. It's not, you know, selling widgets, you know, not trading time for money. You get somebody interested in a good quality product and buy it from you every month. That's good business. That's why I was in the landlord business, building and running, you know, apartments, because every month you get a check. That's why when, you know, I was in the gym business, I didn't want to be a personal trainer trading time for money. I wanted to own the gym so that every month you got recurring revenue from, you know, deposits into your account. So I look at those kinds of businesses as having, you know, growth potential, and I call it making money while I sleep. And I think those are the only businesses to get into rather than trading time for money. And then secondarily, we're developing a cooler product, and probably not easy to describe over a radio cast, but you know, for years I've been sticking my shaker into my cooler and filling it with ice and water, so I had a post-workout drink. And now we've designed something that should be coming out here in a couple of months that accomplishes that. It's
how big is that cooler that you have, that like Gatorade cooler type thing? How big is that thing?
Be a gallon cooler, a little, just slightly more, 1.1.
Okay, so you're sticking your shaker cup inside of there to keep your post-workout.
Yeah, and then we drop the shaker down. Drop the shaker down through the lid and screw it in so that it stays cold. So post-workout, you've got your shake. And we think it's got a pretty universal reach. You know, you look at a lot of kids' sport teams, soccer and football, etc. All those kids, you know, they've got their gallon jugs of water. And I think everybody knows now how important that window of opportunity is post-workout. And you need to be getting in some sort of meal replacement. So we just want to kind of look at, see if that product has any market appeal, and I've been developing it and manufacturing it, and then we should have it here at the beginning of the year to distribute. I think Europa is interested in carrying it, so it should be widely available by March or April.
Cool. And when's that baby on the way?
February. Stan Jr. coming in February.
Oh my God. Gonna have to get him some. Gonna have to get him a little weightlifting belt.
No kidding.
Where's he gonna just lift without a belt? Beltless.
Yeah, he's gonna go raw.
A little bit of chalk.
Classic raw, so he doesn't get hated on the internet.
All right, man. Well, as usual, it was good meeting up with you here, and thanks for sharing all that information. And just good luck to you and everything else that you got coming up, and see you soon.
Yeah, thanks, and good luck at your meet. And then in March, you know, we didn't mention, but we're going to try and get some folks to come out and beat my record, and maybe we can talk about that as we get closer to the meet.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks a lot, Stan.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye. Boy, that guy was an asshole. So arrogant.
So rich, so good looking. He does kind of look like a drug dealer that he mentioned. He gets, there's some picture. I think he's just in a tank top and he's bald and jacked, And I would picture him in like the Fast and Furious movies or something. He's the bad guy selling cocaine across the border.
There's a picture in Power magazine of him like leaning over his Rolls Royce.
Yeah,
and he's in a tank top. Yeah,
gold chains.
Yeah, he's just. He does have that look to him, but what he's told me in the past, some of the dollar amounts that some of his companies have made, he was able to still stay fairly humble with the money that he had, which has got to be difficult to do when you feel like you can just fucking buy whatever you want. He did buy a Rolls Royce in cash, which is pretty goddamn crazy.
Yeah, I think it's kind of difficult to describe. I've known a few people in my life who had, an incredible level of self-confidence and were successful, but managed to come across most of the time as very down to earth and not condescending, not looking down on anybody,
right.
And that's a rare gift by itself, as is the ability to become a person with that level of success.
Which I think he has the ability of just not talking too much, because I actually think in his head that he thinks some certain negative thoughts that he just doesn't follow through with, because he, when you get to that kind of level, you get to be like a LeBron James or a Jordan, or you get to be the greatest at any one sport that you're doing. It's almost too hard to not be arrogant or to not have an ego of some sort.
Yeah.
You almost need an ego. Your ego is the one that's going to go squat the 865, and hopefully not you.
I just watched a small clip on Charles Barkley doing CrossFit, actually. And then
God.
It was hilarious. But then they interviewed him afterwards, and he said that same thing. He's like, "Are you kidding me? Yeah, I'm cocky, but I don't walk around saying, oh, I'm Charles Barkley. But once I get on the court, then I'm Charles Barkley,
right.
and I'm the millionaire. I'm the guy that's going to dunk on you." He's like, if LeBron James walks around every day and saying, God damn, I'm LeBron James, then those are the athletes that get into issues off the field or off the court with the law and whatever else.
Right.
I mean, the people that know Stan or that are close to him know the greatest way to get his attention is to talk about him.
Yeah, I had put together a video.
He's not afraid to admit it, though, and that's where he differs from some.
Right. He had asked me to put together a video for the Olympia, because they were supposed to be showing it before a Q&A that he did in the Weider booth at the Olympia, and they ended up not having the video capability to do that at the end. So I had put the video together while I was in Vegas, didn't have all the resources I normally have. So over the last few days, I've re-engineered it, and I put it up where he could see it last night. And his response was, "That's awesome! It's all me." And I mean, it's perfectly fair to say that. I mean,
he repeatedly would send me videos of him doing a certain lift that I actually saw, like him do in our gym.
Yeah,
he'll send me like a clip to supertraining.tv. I'm like, that's my website.
I was there.
That's Jim's footage. I was standing right there. I know what you did. But he's like, hey, did you see that handsome motherfucker hit that 903 squat in your gym or 905 squat in your gym? So he would do that kind of stuff. But it's all in good fun with him. I think when it really comes down to it, he is a humble person. He's kind and respectful, and he's not going to be. I've never known him to be a dick to anybody. So.
Yeah, very much so. Well, it's similar with Ed Cohn. And who do we hang out with when we go to these? When we go to these big trade shows? It's Stan and Ed Cohn and a few other people who are
and Ed loves hanging out, which is kind of weird, because you're like, that's fucking Ed. He sometimes can't get over it still. Like I can't. I'm always like, that's fucking Ed Cohn.
But I mean, he'll talk about things he's done for sure, but he doesn't. It's like here's the story.
You usually have to bring it up for him to talk about it.
Right.
Like I sent him a text today, and I said, I know you're a cheating motherfucker, and that you cheated your whole powerlifting career. And he said, like, he goes, by cheating, if you mean lifting the most and being the best, then I guess you're right. I always try to tease him that he was short and he had special leverages over everybody, and he lifted fake plates, and he's just not hearing it. But yeah, that's pretty much it from the Rhino, and another good PowerCast. And I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. You got something, Mike?
Nope. We
Okay.
got a meet coming up. I guess.
Yeah.
Time to smash some weights.
Couple days. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday today, and the meet's on Saturday. So me and Mike gotta cut a little bit of weight. I'm somewhat on cruise control. I only got 7 pounds, so
Yeah, I'm about the same
take
now.
a shit and I'll be there.
Blow your big fat nose and 7 pounds of boogers come out.
Take a shit in my bathtub and I'll be all good.
Right in the top of the sink.
So
Top shelf.
by the time you listen to this meet will already have happened. And
We've
so,
already smashed hella weights.
There you go. So we're at STGymSac on Twitter / Super Training Gym on Facebook. Check out everything that we have to sell. It's on supertraining.tv.
All
Click
our
through,
shit.
just buy our stuff. And people don't understand that when you have a podcast, you're paying for bandwidth. It's not like YouTube. It's not free. So
you cheap motherfuckers.
we need to cover this. We're not asking you to pay for it directly. We're asking you to patronize products. They're going to be new. By the time that you hear this, there'll be new merchandise on the store at supertraining.tv.
Got some hats coming up.
Yep, I got hats.
Beanies?
Got some new beanies. I got some shirts. So check that stuff out. That helps.
HowMuchYouBench.net.
How
Get
much
yourself
you
a
bench?
damn slingshot.
Exactly. Subscribe to Power Magazine.
Subscribe to Power Magazine and stop being so cheap. I hear people all the time are like, "Oh, the Barnes and Noble, they get it like 3 weeks later than whatever." Just
Yeah, get it online. Get the
just
digital.
subscribe.
Yeah.
Get the digital. If you get the digital, you get it 2 weeks early, and you get over a year of back issues.
People
You're
are so
basically
stupid.
ripping me off by signing up for that.
I don't understand picking up a magazine in the.
Barnes and Noble's probably going to go bankrupt within the year.
Yeah,
There's
I
no
think-
stored books are obsolete.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's true.
I'm a
Those
smart
things
man, all right?
Those things are falling apart.
Yeah, just like Blockbuster. That
Those are
shit's
not
gone.
businesses that you can make money while you're sleeping.
Yeah, I had this
Yeah.
great
Efferding.
idea to have a video store where people come and borrow my DVDs,
Oh,
and then they bring them back.
You mean VHS?
VHS tapes.
All right, everybody, that's number 9.
Later.
Subscribe to Power Magazine at thepowermagazine.com. If you choose the digital edition, you can catch up on all the great back issues, take your training to the next level with Slingshot products at howmuchyoubench.net, and look for BSN products including NO Explode at bodybuilding.com. Mark Bell's PowerCast is a production of supertraining.tv.